Yo, we are live. We are live. How you guys doing? Thursday evening. The weekend is nearly here. What's not to like? What's not to like? But yeah, just a quick conversation in regards to boxing and all things boxing. More than likely, something else will come up. But yeah, we'll see what happens, guys. We'll see what happens. But yeah, hopefully you guys been good. I've not done. I forgot the last stream I did, maybe 2 weeks ago. I am trying to be more regular with the streams, um, but we shall see. What's up, drunk Irishman? How you doing? How you doing? I do have some plans, like some grand ideas for live streams. Um, More interactive, I would say. I have some plans in mind because listen, I like doing these solo streams. I do. I like interacting with you guys, but we may do some more interactive streams in the future. I would just have to police them the way I want them policed. When I say that, I don't mean like fucking just pure boxing talk. I want characters, I want interesting people, but I don't want people who can't control themselves, who can't control their emotions in discussion. I have little time for such people who can't coherently talk amongst others. So those screaming child man babies won't be welcome. But I want interesting people, controversial characters, all good. But if you can't talk properly to others, you can't communicate properly, not interested at all. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's the plan in the future for like live streams. Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, Rem, I saw it. Yeah, the doctor call. Yeah, what's up, Randy Orton? How you doing? And it's interesting because I do think there could be something in it. I hope the guy's wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But again, I said in my preview before the fight, I suspected, due to what's gone on with Errol Spence Jr., that he would be past his best. And I suspected, I said this in my pre-fight video, I suspected, based on pure intuition and what's gone on, that Errol Spence Jr. wouldn't take the punches from Crawford well. What I saw was worse than I expected. I saw Spence getting hurt with jab after jab after jab after jab. That tells me there's something seriously wrong with that guy. He's considerably past his best. I hope he's just shot and not shot in the sense of having a brain issue. But yeah, when I watched the fight live, I stayed up till 5 a.m. I had like 12 fucking Heinekens. So initially, I just kind of saw it as a great performance by Crawford. But when I rewatched it, I think there was something up with Spence. I can't lie. Maybe he's just weight drained. Cool. Maybe it's just that. I hope it's just that because listen, I agree, man. His fan base are cancer, but I wouldn't want to see some guy get seriously hurt. What's up, Johnny? How you doing, bro? If Ben's defense was if Ben's defense was his body breaks down Clomid slower, then how does that get him around for strict liability? It was still in his system. If Khan got 2 years and they accepted Khan didn't knowingly take it, that's a great point, Randy Orton. That's a great point. I guess, Conor Benn is like this next sort of potential pay-per-view draw. So are they going to risk ruining that gravy train? More than likely not. At this point in time, I've made my point, my thoughts clear on drugs in boxing. Let all of these guys juice because it's clearly one rule for one rule for another. When certain guys get popped, they get punished. When other guys get popped, they don't. Drug testing needs to be implemented fairly or not at all. Yeah, I thought Spence would win. Sorry, I thought Bud would win too, but I was shocked when Spence got dropped by a jab like Brook. And it wasn't that he got dropped once by a jab, he was hurt repeatedly by a jab. I suspect so, Randy Orton. Yeah, must have been the jurisdiction issue. Yeah, I suspect so. But again, who knows? Maybe there's more legs in that story. I don't know. Yeah, Bomac ate the gravy train. Yeah, facts. You see, he's training Chris Eubank Jr. now. I don't know when fighters are going to learn this whole flavor of a month thing when it comes to trainers, man. That's just what it is. Flavor of a month. Bomac's done a good job with Crawford. And he did a decent job with Jamel Herring. But overall, man, this guy doesn't have like a crazy body of work like Manny Stewart or a guy like that. I think he's just the current flavor of a month, personally. I think he kind of lucked out with Crawford. What's up? What's up, Mike? We all have critical thinking skills here. We all know if it's not you pop, it's who pops. Yeah, exactly. It's not if you pop, it's who pops. Exactly. Exactly. MSGV, who would you like to see tank in the ring with next? Great question. Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, Vasily Lomachenko, Williams Zepeda, I would like to see. No issue with that fight. There's a few fights out there I'd like to see him in. There's a few fights I'd like to see him in that I wouldn't have an issue with. But one of those four, ideally. The WBC have made Haney champion in recess at 135 while he takes on Regis at 140. Makes no sense. Makes no sense at all. If this guy's either a lightweight or he's moving up. Makes no sense. Apparently, this guy struggles to make lightweight. Now he's fighting at 140 while he's champion in recess. Come off it. Come off it. Come off it. If you want to go at 140, just vacate the titles, let these guys fight. Simple as that. Let these guys fight for the vacant titles. Simple. Simple. Speaking of titles, there was news released today, I believe, that the WBO will relinquish Jermell Charlo of his title as soon as he's introduced against Canelo. So he's champion up until fight night with Canelo. Then he gets stripped and Tim Tszyu gets the title. I've seen responses to this on social media. Now, I've seen many butthurt comments online. Oh, Jermell Charlo shouldn't be stripped, this, that, and the other. I think he should be stripped. And I'll tell you for why. Do I blame Jermell Charlo for fighting Canelo? Of course not. Mega money, legacy fight. I don't blame him, but he's not fought Tim Tszyu in the allotted time frame. And Tim Tszyu previously agreed to that fight. Ben Jermell got injured. Tim's been waiting around for a minute now. Listen, if he's not going to take that fight, strip him. You can't have your cake and eat it. You can't have the best of both worlds. If you make a decision, then bear the consequences. Am I the only one who sees it like that? Tim's got his shot, whether you agree or not, but he's got his shot. He agreed to fight Jermell. Then Jermell got injured. Then he waited further. Then Jermell took the Canelo fight. He should be stripped. He should be stripped. No, there's no other reasonable take or correct take. If Crawford becomes undisputed at 154, is he greater than Floyd? It depends what the state of 154 is, I guess, is the answer, I would say. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that in regards to the Virgil Ortiz fight. They treated that guy like shit. It would have been nice if they got him some sort of replacement opponent, even if it wasn't a great guy, just to give him some sort of some sort of fight. But yeah, Stanionis right now is in limbo. I'd like to see him fight Jaron Ennis maybe next. I think that's a good fight for both. Who do you pick between Tank and Shakur? Tank's power disguises his intelligence. This will be a time he's so far behind in ring IQ. I'm confidently picking Shakur. I would pick Shakur. I think he's a better boxer. I think he's better technically. I think he's better defensively. But Tank's power, I would say, is legitimate. He's got a chance with his speed, his power, etc. Timing. What's up, Edmund? How you doing? I'm seeing a lot of people overblowing this Spence victory. Don't get me wrong, Crawford's a very accomplished fighter, pound for pound 1 or 2, but he's not a top 30 of all time. No, he's not. No, I agree. I agree. And listen, I suspect Spence is damaged goods. Ultimately, we're gonna see down the line. We will see down the line if Spence is done or not. If Spence goes to 154 and picks up good results, then I'm wrong. Then many of us are wrong. We shall see, though. I suspect it's more than just being weight drained. That's what I suspect. Sorry, Randy. With rematch clauses being so common, even in mandatory fights, don't need inactive champions holding on to titles. Exactly, facts. Yeah, Nate Diaz, another guy, punch drunk vegetable. Yeah. Dell, the PBC cult are trying everything to defend Spence, but I've seen pro matchroom channels on G-Man Live saying Spence was a protected hype job. These channels make me not like the sport. I mean, listen, there's always going to be people with crazy takes. What you'll find is when it comes to boxing, boxing is a sport that really does appeal to the lowest common denominator. And what I mean by that, it really does prey on people's insecurities. What is one of boxing's biggest techniques to sell a fight? It's racial elements. And again, the average bear who hasn't got God in their life, who's basically a level above from an amoeba, they're going to buy into that, right? And you see that in a lesser example when it comes to like fanboying over certain promoters. It's always groupthink. It's always tribal. It's always this, that, and the other. That's just the nature of a lot of boxing fans, unfortunately. I've got a video coming on this tomorrow, by the way, which might get me fucking in trouble. But I saw a story this week that made me utterly sick. Utterly sick. And it really shows how culturally divided the society is. And it goes to show how degenerate both the left and the right are. I'll give you a clue. It's in regards to Keith Thurman and Clarissa Shields, people talking about that potential fight. I've got a different take on it, but I'll save that for tomorrow. Maybe even after this stream, I don't know. Do I give Dan Aziz a chance against Buatsi? Listen, he's got a shot. He's competitive. I think it's a good fight. I'd make Buatsi a favourite. He's the harder puncher, more experienced guy, amateur pedigree. I'd favour Buatsi, but I think it's a good fight. Dan Aziz came up the hard way, never had anything given to him. I like the fight. Yeah, I agree. Strip him. I think he's afraid of Tim. Why should he have to wait while Charlo makes his money? Doesn't make sense. I agree, bro. I don't think Jamel is afraid of Tim Tszyu. I think a better option came up in terms of money. He took it, which is fair enough. I don't blame him. But you can't have the best of both worlds. Strip the guy. Yeah, I agree. It's almost been a year since the Tszyu-Charlo fight was signed, which Charlo pulled out of due to injury. Would prefer him to fight for it as opposed to being elevated, though. I agree, Jay. I agree with that in an ideal world. But yeah. I think Boots can't hurt Stanionis, and honestly, I think Stanionis could potentially beat him. I think Stanionis gives him a hard fight, but it's the height and reach of Ennis and the dynamism in his approach. He can switch hit. He's quicker. He's longer. I say he hits harder. I'll take Ennis, and he's bigger. So I'll take Ennis. But it's a good fight. I'd like to see it. Thoughts on Jamal getting slapped by Plant? I think he's finished personally. Not only is he apparently depressed, but the only action he's seen lately is pushing past a security guard at Bud Spence. Yeah, I saw that, yeah. I'd like to see Jamal versus Plants. I think it makes sense where both guys are at. But again, he's another guy. Why is he still a champion? 2 years inactive. The Tyson Fury effect. Just say you've got mental health illness and you're good, you're Gucci. You know, if you say you're mentally ill, then all of a sudden, every single responsibility becomes alleviated. You have no responsibility anymore. That's the way of the world now. unfortunately. Well, unless you're a regular person and you've got bills to pay. But these fucking dork multimillionaires who carry fucking purses, these guys are soft as shit. I don't care whether these guys fight for a living. These guys are soft. Yeah, that's another issue. You guys know my issues with this community. You guys know my issues with this community. But weirdly, as much as I dislike a lot of what Matchroom do, the anti-Matchroom channels are just as bad. You know the channels who are purely anti-Matchroom, and yet they say nothing else about PBC, Frank Warren, Ben Shalom. Those guys are just as bad. Those guys are so low IQ. I'll tell you what, if you start a boxing channel, the best thing for you to do to get the quickest growth is be anti-Matchroom, just purely anti-Matchroom, because it seems to appeal to low IQ knuckle dragging retards. I've seen those same people comment on my channel when I slate Eddie Hearn. Oh yeah, you speak the truth. I like your channel. When I say, oh, that's a good fight by Matchroom. Oh, you love Eddie Hearn. Mongs, absolute fucking mongs. Yeah, fuck Keith Thurman, man. Fuck that guy. World champions need to fight often. Undisputed champions must fight. At 154, it's going to be likely. It will likely be 2 years since Charlo last fought. Needs to be stripped. I agree. And I've got no issue with Jermell Charlo. By the way, I've not got any issue. But he's made his decision. Jermell Charlo's not one of those fighters I criticize all that much, because I think he has fought good competition at 154. By the way, I've heard rumours that Tim Tszyu might be fighting Brian Mendoza next. The guy who knocks out Sebastian Fedora. That'll be a good fight. I like the way Tim Tszyu staying active, I have to say. Yeah, I remember when Adrian Broner claimed that the PBC were finished. However, it seems they're doing all right now. I think it got to the point with the PBC where they had to make these sort of fights, where they had to reach out and let their fighters take certain fights, like Fulton against Inoue. If this was 3 years ago, I don't think that fight would have happened. I think they've needed to be honest. And hopefully they continue with working with other guys, outsiders, etc. You know what I mean? But we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. All of these promotional companies have issues, some more than others. I do think the two biggest detriments to boxing in the last 15 years have been Matchroom and PBC. But that's just my opinion. I may make a video about that at some point in time. I may make a video about that at some point in time. I don't know. At some point, I will. Have to be honest. About 2 years ago, I watched a channel. It's gone now. He was a pro AJ guy and knocking Fury. I was like, "You're a clown." Shame I was wrong. He was right about everything on Fury. Yeah, yeah. AJ's not perfect by any means. AJ's fans are wild. My position on AJ was always quite clear. I think AJ's a really good heavyweight. I always have. But his fans, man, make it out like AJ was like a 6'6" version of Mike Tyson. Like they completely overblown his resume. His resume's decent, don't get me wrong, but they completely overblown his resume. They ignored his flaws. They ignored certain things that happened in his career. And any criticism of AJ is just hating. And Fury fans, don't get me started. What's up, JD? How you doing, bruv? I see this. Yeah, good fight. Apparently, they're making Benavidez Andrade next. I think Benavidez Morel would be more entertaining. I agree, but at least the former eliminates one from the Canelo sweepstakes. Yeah, I think Benavidez, by the way, is going to punk Andrade. Andrade's going to look good early on, like he always does. After 3 or 4 rounds, he'll be leading that fight, but he'll slow down as he always does, and eventually Benavidez is going to get on top of him, push him around, bully him, get on the inside, and bust him up. Benavidez beats Andrade, either late stoppage or on points. What's up? What's up, Jeff? Man. By the way, Jeff, check out the sit down with Jeff. Excellent channel if you like mafia content. I actually did like a quasi interview / podcast with him talking about Los Zetas on the other channel, Disturbed Reality. Really good guy. Real as well. I like people who are to the point and honest. And my contacts with Jeff have always been that, if we can't do something, we'll let each other know. Just a real individual with a good channel. So check him out. If you like mafia content, check him out. Excellent channel. Excellent channel. Yeah, Joshua was very good. It was the overhype that turned me off him. He's more of a respectable champion than Tyson Fury will ever be, though. You can make the argument. Derek Chisora versus Gerald Washington has been announced on the AJ White undercard. Jesus Christ. Eddie Hearn said 7 months ago, by the way, after the Tyson Fury fight, Derek Chisora should retire. And now, 7 months later, he's got him fighting on his undercard. That's boxing promoters for you. Now, thank you, bro. And yeah, listen, bro, I've spoken to a few people on here, and I'm sure you've dealt with it as well. A lot of these guys are just wishy-washy, snaky. It's very like, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. I'm not particularly interested in that sort of thing, mate. That's the only advice I'd give you. Beware of those sort of people. Big up to yourself, though, Jeff. Yeah, I think the PBC is done. They lost damn near all of their TV syndication. Fox backed away from them, and now Showtime. Yeah, we shall see, I guess, right? We shall see. Yeah, I still see the NPCs in the comments of John and Tyson Fury's posts talking about how genuine the Furies are. Lost causes. These people, like, how can they not see through Fury's bullshit? Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But again, boxing, like I said earlier, boxing appeals to the lowest common denominator. And as I said, I've got a video coming tomorrow talking about the utter degeneracy that is Keith Thurman versus Claressa Shields. And it really kind of highlights how clapped both the left and the right are. I was disgusted by the responses I saw in regards to the talk of that fight happening. I'll be honest. Absolutely disgusted. I mean, I expect it from these blue-head freaks on the left, championing that sort of fight. But so-called conservatives want to see a woman get beat up. Conservative, though. God-fearing conservatives. Okay, cool. That fight is evil. Even promoting that fight, it's not going to happen, right? But even promoting it, even encouraging it, is evil. You may be right, Quags. The only reason we're getting these fights is because it's a going out of business sale. Might as well recoup some revenue before you declare bankruptcy. Maybe. That's another shit fight. Yeah, Jorge Linares against Catterall, another shit fight. I like Linares a lot, but yeah, needs to call it a day. He's done. Yeah, I think it's going to follow the usual trend with Andrade. When a guy is somewhat durable, if he gets past the first 3 or 4 rounds, Andrade's going to revert to type. Spoil, hold, duck below the waist, etc. He'll probably look good for the first 3 rounds or so, maybe winning after those rounds. But he'll fall apart. Benavidez' size, his strength punch output, power. That'll get to Andrade, and Andrade will lose. I'd watch it. Yeah, I'd watch Crawford versus Zoo. Yeah, I'd watch it. Doubt will get it. No, Bruce. Apparently, that fight's not on anymore. Apparently, according to Showtime, that fight was never supposed to be scheduled for August the 5th. It's going to happen later in the year. But yeah, it's not happening. Yeah, Lara versus Danny Garcia. Yeah, it's not happening on Saturday. I know it's on the schedules, but it's not happening. I think really what that was about was they didn't want to compete with Jake Paul and Nate Diaz. Let that sink in. Yeah, there's so many things wrong with even discussions of that fight happening. We shouldn't see it again, but do you think we'll see Crawford Spence too? It's boxing, bro. Nothing would surprise me. I hope we don't. I hope we don't. Who's my favourite at 154? I'd say Tim Zhu as of right now. I like Tim Zhu. I do like Tim Zhu. I've been speaking about Tim Zhu for a while though, like since he turned pro. And I said back then he was very raw back then because he got dropped in one of his early fights. But there was always something there with Tim Zhu. I like his application. I like his dedication to the sport. He's not like a Chavez Jr. or a Eubank Jr. in the sense where he dines out on his dad's name. He's trying to make it on his own, which I like, which I respect. Costia's not really involved directly in his career. I really like the improvements from Tim, and he's staying active. You know, while he's waiting for a title shot or while he's waiting now to get a title, he's staying active. So many young fighters could learn from that. Yeah, just Jake Paul this weekend, bro. We're not exactly spoilt for choice. But there's a decent card the weekend after with the Joshua White card. That's a decent main event for what it is. Filip Hrgovic, Dempsey McKean is all right. What fights are you looking forward to in the near future? Great question. What fights are even signed? That's the actual question. I don't really know, to be honest. No, Oscar Valdez, Emmanuel Navarrete. That could be a fight of the year contender at a super featherweight. That could be a great fight. Last live fight I went to was Carl Froch, George Groves 2 at Wembley Stadium. And after that, I said I would never go to a stadium fight again. I've never been to a fight again since then, let alone a stadium fight. But Carl Froch, George Groves 2 was the last fight I saw in person. It's been a long time. Because back then, from like 2013 to 2015, I saw a lot of fights live. Eubank Jr. versus Billy Joe Saunders. Froch Bute, that was 2012 though. I saw a lot of fights back then live. The best fight atmosphere I was in was Froch Bute in Nottingham Arena. That was a great atmosphere. Really was, man. Great atmosphere. Now, I don't want to see it, man. I'd rather see Crawford either try to go to 154 and fight one of those guys or fight Ennis, Jaron Ennis. That's what I'd like to see personally. I'm not convinced that Spence has anything left, personally. Don't get me started, Edmund, on Ebony Bridges. I've got a video again. I've got a video coming tomorrow on something similar, so just check that out. But I predicted long ago that yeah, this is only going to head in one direction. This whole the whole implementation of female boxing, which nobody really asked for, by the way, 7-8 years ago. It's purely a social experiment, you know, just ticking boxes for PC reasons. Again, I see all of these channels talking about female boxing, all of these so-called hardcore boxing fans. We see how many of these guys say, I'm from the streets, I'm this, I'm that, I'm the other. Yet all of these guys seem to talk about female boxing. I'll challenge you this. I'm sure some of you guys have friends who have a passing interest in boxing. They're casuals, right? Ask these guys in your personal lives, how many of these guys like female boxing? None of these guys are going to say, yeah, I like female boxing. I like to see two females fight. None of these guys are going to say that. No, nobody likes it. There's very few people who actually like it. From my experience, when I've watched fights with friends, even when there's been women in the room, a collective sigh, a collective 30 minutes of boredom, nobody really likes it. Nobody really likes it. It's all of a sudden it's been implemented, and all of a sudden all of these channels are starting to cover it. Again, they are agents of chaos, whether they know it or not, because this is only heading in one direction. And the reality is this. Again, I'm giving away points from my next video. The next thing you'll see in boxing from mainstream publications like ESPN, Sky Sports, The Ring, etc., you're going to start to see mixed pound-for-pound lists, both male and female. That's not far away. That's just around the corner. And at some point in time, you will see male v female fights. That's what's going to happen. I'm calling it now. I'm calling it now. So yeah, you shouldn't support this shit, as far as I'm concerned. No, the atmosphere was decent for Carl Froch George Groves. It was more so the view. Plus, I'll be real, fights like that just attract, I don't know, man, people I'd rather not be around, personally. The amount of cokeheads at that fight was crazy. Just gurning off their fucking tits, out their heads. You know what I'm saying? That's beyond me, how you'd go to such an event and you have to get coked up or boozed up. Have a couple of drinks, cool, fair enough, but I don't know, man. Yeah, I think he'll remember fight film How to Throw the Left Hook Again and Punch with Purpose. I think he'll remember. I'm actually looking forward to that fight. It got postponed, though. Beterbiev has I think a root canal infection, something like that. So that fight's been postponed, unfortunately. But I think that'll be a good fight. I think that'll be a good fight. Yeah, no one I know likes female boxing. Hearn said before he didn't like it. I hope you don't think I'm a hater. Sorry, I've lost myself. Sorry. I hope you don't think I'm a hater, but that Pro Matchroom, he said he's an alpha as it gets. Yeah, he simps for female boxing. Yeah, what is up is down these days, though, right? What is up is down, and down is up. Listen, bro. I'm telling you, man. Some of these guys are propped up. Maybe even industry plants. I don't know. Who the fuck knows, man? Who the fuck knows? But to push such a message, you can't have God in your life. You can't have God in your life, because when you say a female, when you're introducing mixed pound for pound lists, by definition you're saying they should fight each other, or they're able to fight each other. If you understand what pound for pound even means. I'll get coked up if I'm allowed to tee off on morons with impunity. Bro. Yeah, facts, RSV, facts. You know that though in the UK, man, like every sporting event is filled with coke heads. Cocaine is like the drug of choice out here, man. It's like it's crazy. Like, listen, you may not know anybody who deals drugs. You can find cocaine on a Saturday night in any regular bar or club or pub. It's everywhere out here, man. It's fucking everywhere. I think we're the main consumers per capita. I think in the world, certainly in Europe, certainly in Europe. Crowd puts me off watching hyped fights live. Coked up ogres kicking off with everyone. Yeah, yeah, man. Yeah, Jay is yeah. Yeah, we truly live in the ashes of civilization. Yeah. Well, it feels like that right now, but there's always ways we can turn the tide, right? I guess. Yeah, mate. But all of these like hardcore gangsters and alpha males, so called, are covering it, right? It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I can't stand women's boxing. Yeah, same for women's football, though. Yeah, nobody wants to watch it, man. After what I saw in regards to the mixed pound for pound lists, I've got no time for it, to be honest. No time for that. Yeah, it's so ironic that female liberation is the eradication of females. I hate modern feminism, but no, mate, I don't want to see a male fighting a female, even if it is to own the libs. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing online in regards to Keith Thurman, Clarissa Shields. Yeah, man, I don't want to see a woman get. I don't care how unlikable a woman is. I don't want to see her get beat up. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to see her get beat up by a man. I don't want to see them get beat up by each other. But there you go. Maybe I'm just an old school misogynist. I don't know. Maybe it's that. I don't know. Yeah, San Andreas was great. Don't buy Coke. Yeah, it's a waste of money. I've never done Coke, and it's just I've seen I've seen how people act on it. Yeah, it's not worth it. It's not worth it, mate. Yep, in Glasgow, you can buy cocaine at the local dump. It says it all, bro. It says it all, Nordic. Yeah, exactly, bro. Exactly, but again, the degenerates on both sides are pushing that fight. Believe it or not, look at Twitter. Look at the people talking about that fight. On the left, it's like, oh, females can do anything a male can do. It's her choice. If she wants to do it, let her do it. And on the right, I want to see this fight just to own the libs. So you want to see a woman get beat up just to own the libs. See, they are just as degenerate as those blue haired freaks. I don't care. Again, I don't care how unlikable she is. I don't want to see a woman get beat up by a guy. Don't want to see it. Don't want to see it. I survived coke addiction in the 80s, Matt, bro. The golden era, man. At least that shit back then, Bruce, was like somewhat. It wasn't as cut as it is today. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't as cut as it is today. Like you don't know what you're fucking snorting these days. You don't know what you're snorting at all. How much of that shit's talcum powder? Who the fuck knows? Plus, God knows what else. Yeah, I wouldn't try it, JD, man. Cocaine's one of those drugs. It's one of those drugs, man. If you get addicted to it, you're going to be broke in no time. You're going to get broke in no time. I almost got into an altercation with a normie at work over the BBC's warmongering against China. Ever heard normies talk about the news and ever tried to wake them up a little bit? Yeah, it's impossible. It's impossible. Again, I always like to look at American media. The fact that CNN and Fox both agree that China are this existential threat makes you wonder. Yeah, I remember Brandon. Yeah, big degenerate. Yeah, bro, facts. No, the main thing is though, you got through it, bro, and you're not going to go back. That's the main thing. That's the main thing. Like growing up in Luton, man, I saw so many people like done, strung out, hopeless. It was over. So yeah, getting off that shit is fucking hard. Getting off that shit's hard, but the fact you're off it is the main thing. And now you're off it, you'll stay off it. And you like, if you ever need reminding, just go to the areas where these guys are strung out, because that's a poignant reminder that you don't want to be like those people. Do you know what I'm saying? Let me turn the light on quick. Hang on. Yeah, that's facts as well. Yeah, any drug addiction will empty out your bank account quickly. Facts. Yeah, bro, we're old school out here, man. Yeah, there's no reason for sanctioned men beating up women. I agree, bro. Maybe we're old school. I think Canelo's definitely got more wear and tear on his body with like the fluctuations in weight. You know, he's carrying a lot of muscle on his frame. Plus, I suspect he's been on HGH and things like that. I suspect that's taking a toll now, personally. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Nordic, yeah, yeah. I'd say again. I always think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Now, congrats though, Johnny. Congrats. And again, when it comes to hardship and trauma, the way I kind of look at it and um and process it, I guess I would say, I kind of view it like weightlifting. You know how somebody lifts weights? They'll lift weights for a while, their muscles will start to burn, they rest, and they'll get a little bit of growth. That's basically trauma. Once you've been through something, you've got through it. You're fine now, and it gives you belief in which you're going to cope with the next adversity much better because you've gone through shit already. Going through that sort of shit's like trauma. It's like building muscle. Once you go through certain things, it toughens you up. It toughens you up. It toughens you up. Keep that mindset, and you'll deal with situations a lot easier. And also, like I like to just internalize it as well and use it as fuel to try and better myself and try and almost, I guess, better myself because I owe it to myself, my family, and to God. But let's be real. But it's also about proving people wrong as well, isn't it? We all kind of get off on that to a certain degree. You know, proving people wrong who kind of wrote us off in certain times of like hardship or things of that nature. You know, but you don't want to get too far into that mindset. It's nice to prove people wrong, but at the same time, don't let it get to your head. It's a fine balance. Oh, big up Gerard, by the way. Thank you, man. Big up to yourself with a super chat. Much appreciated, bro. I'm doing good, bro. We're just chilling and chatting, having a good time. Thursday evening, the weekend's nearly here. I've got a long weekend as well. I've got the weekend off, obviously. And also, I've got Monday and Tuesday off as well. So, yeah, I'm feeling good, bro. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. My worst addiction was vaping THC in about 2020. That shit was laced up as fuck. Yeah, especially in the UK. That shit could have spice in it and God knows what else. I beat my girlfriend daily. I'll tell you a story. Sorry, I'll tell you a story. A family close to me, a rich family, all smoked weed. Uh, sorry, I'll tell you a story. A family close to me, a rich family, all smoked weed. Kids did. They all did one thing, led to another. All the four kids, all boys, have had to go to rehab. It's a slippery slope. Yeah, I honestly think boomers are dumber and more ignorant than millennials and zoomers. In most cases, they grew up with TV and newspapers as their only sources of information. Maybe you're right. I think most generations are, are like controlled and, kind of like insular in many ways. What are my thoughts on aliens? I mean, listen, bro, I don't believe any of this talk in the news going on right now. I think it's all fake. I think it's all a psyop, personally. Do I believe there are aliens out there somewhere in the universe? I find it highly improbable that there's not. But do I believe they've like ever visited Earth? No. Do I believe there's aliens like a million light years or closer to Earth? No. Probably much further out. To tell to answer your question. Yeah, that's facts, Johnny. Yeah, that's facts. They'll probably promote it, bro. They'll probably promote it. Big up again, Gerard, man. Big up. I was lifting weights for a while, was stronger than I've ever been. I've had to stop for a while though due to annoying injuries. Yeah, picking up niggles and knocks are the worst. Because once you've got rid of one and you think you've got rid of it and you go back too early, you kind of fuck it over again. But yeah, I've been boxing again recently as well. I've not been going in hard, but now and again, like a couple of times a week. And I fucked my shoulder up last week and I had to take last week off. Don't know what I did to it, but yeah, I ran away from home at 15 like an idiot to prove my dad wrong. And you're right, it was a double-edged sword. Yeah, because I'm sure you learned a lot, but at the same time, probably wasn't the right thing to do, right? Probably wasn't the right thing to do. Yeah, that's a great point. This is you've put it better than I have. Yeah. It gives you a lot of motivation and the like, yeah, this in regards to proving people wrong, yeah. It gives you a lot of motivation and the like, but it can also give you an unhealthy dose of tunnel vision. Yep. I agree. Yeah, I'm not a vaping guy, Nordic. I do smoke cigarettes. That's my only real vice. I know I need to quit it. I know I need to quit. It's one of those ones. It's one of those ones. But who knows? Maybe I'm immune to smoking. Who knows? No cap, as the kids say. My family on my dad's side. So a lot of the guys smoked on my dad's side of the family. So my granddad, for example, he died at 88. And he basically smoked from World War II until the day he died, as well as cigars. Every time I saw him, so he smoked pipes, cigarettes, and cigars. And he died at 88. Every time I saw him when I was young, he was always fucking smoking. Always smoking. And there's been other people on my dad's side who have smoked for a long fucking time and no health issues. So we're gonna play the gamble game, maybe 50-50. Maybe I get that side of a tree. Who knows? Yeah, normies believe ancient aliens is facts. If you say, well, maybe gravity was different thousands of years ago, but no, people from another planet who will never come back is more realistic. I think you're selling humans short by saying aliens did everything. I agree, Jordan. I agree. Yeah, facts toxic. Facts. XMB, I'm going old school right now, bro. I'm smoking roll ups. It's cheaper. Going old school. Yeah, I just smoke cigarettes. I drink maybe 3 times a month and very occasionally smoke a joint. It's basically me, bro. It's basically me as well. I drink maybe a couple of times a month. Um, I try and keep drinking to only social occasions, which I'm doing really well at. So maybe a couple times a month. And yeah, cigarettes, and that's basically it. Occasionally a joint as well. What's your typical breakfast, lunch, and dinner, Del Boy? Great question. These days, aside from 2 days a week when I'm like in the office, these days I literally eat one meal a week. I don't eat breakfast or anything like that. So like today, I literally went just full carnivore. I had butcher's sausages, real thick sausages, like really good meat, and eggs, just a boatload of eggs. That's all I had today, basically. My nana's in her late 70s and smokes like a chimney. Has done since her early 20s. Exactly. Yeah, I'm hoping I've got those genetics. My boyfriend vapes. I hate it. I don't like smoking in general. Yeah, it's not good, man. It's not good. Can't blame you. I just bought a pack for nearly 14 quid. What do you smoke, XMB? What do you smoke? Yeah, bro, cigarettes are way worse for you. Having said that, though, there's no. Is the data really there for vapes? I'm not sure. Is it really there for vapes? I don't know, man. I don't know. I hope you're right, Doc. I hope you're right. In all seriousness, I would like to quit at some point in time. Right now, though, probably not. Probably not. I'm not on a carnivore diet. Sorry, I'm not on a carnivore diet. I just went full carnivore today, and it was lovely. Some good eggs. I had about 4 eggs and like 6 massive fucking sausages. Literally all I had today. But they were like proper butcher's sausages, you know? Really good. Really good. So I'm 6'2" ish. 6'1", 6'2", and I'm about 170, 75, something like that. So I'm basically a light heavyweight right now. But I could cut down to 160. Go for it. Go for it, bro. Go for it. You're looking pretty good nick though, G-Man. You're looking pretty good nick. Yeah, it helps me. I quite like it. I've done it a few times. Well, I've done it quite a lot. And it's been okay for me. I think it's particularly beneficial. This is my theory. So in the week, aside from like Tuesdays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays when I'm boxing, like I don't like work out or anything like that. I just do my work, which is computer based. So I'm not exerting as many calories, I guess, right? So like the whole intermittent fasting on those days is a lot easier and it works for me. But when I'm more active, then intermittent fasting doesn't work. I think this is my theory. I think intermittent fasting is good for people who have like who work in the office, who don't work out, etc. I think it's good for those people who don't get any exercise. But if you're working out, if you've got a physical job, then maybe intermittent fasting isn't the best for you. That's my theory. This is me based on me. So when I have a day active, intermittent fasting doesn't work for me. Which sounds obvious, right? When you're working out more, you need more sustenance. You need more fuel. Oh, you're a girl. Sorry, Jordan. Sorry, Jordan. It's unusual for girls to be in this chat. I can't lie. It's very unusual. Are you from the other channel by any chance? I smoke Mayfair Blue. I picked it as a cheaper alternative to Marlboro Gold, but now it's a bump. Yeah, might need to switch it down. Yeah, facts. Yeah, I agree, Gerard. I've never got on with vapes. I always feel like a weirdo when I smoke them and all. So it's like, fuck that shit, man. I'd rather just go old school. Look like a distinguished gentleman. You know, I've even I've even got like a fancy lighter to make myself look a bit more sophisticated. If I have one vice, it can be diet. Don't get me wrong. Normally I'm very good, but I could go 2 days not eating and then just eat crap for a day. Rare, but it's a bad habit. Yeah. See, my diet's not too bad. I've never really struggled with diet, like whether it comes to fizzy drinks or fast food just doesn't appeal to me. Never has. Fizzy drinks or sugary drinks, very, very rare, extremely rare. The only time I'll have a sugary drink is after like a night out with the lads to get a bit of energy. But aside from that, I don't really drink sugary drinks. Diet wise, I've always been pretty good. Red meats, white meats, fish, etc. I've always been pretty good. I don't eat much processed food. So diet wise, I've always been pretty decent on. Touch wood, well, not touch wood, but give or take, But yeah, smoking's my thing. I know I need to quit. Rock stars didn't vape. Facts. Yeah, that's a great point, Nordic. Yeah, being obese for many years makes fasting very beneficial. Lots of excess body fat to tap into for energy. Yeah, you don't look that obese. Sorry, you don't look like out of shape though, Nordic. You look built, but you don't look out of shape. To me, at least. Oh, nice one, Jordan. Good. I'm glad you're here. You're probably the only female who's like subbed to this channel. Intermittent fasting works better for people with a lot of fat to burn. Yeah, that could be that makes sense as well. So for me, again, I'm like 6'2", 6'1", 6'1 and a half, give or take. I don't really know that 175. And it works for me when I'm like working in the office, when I'm not like having a physically strenuous day. It works quite well for me on those days. But yeah, when I'm active, like if I'm helping my parents out in like, cause I always try and help them out like in the garden because they're older, things like that, or when I'm boxing, whatever. Intermittent fasting's no bueno. It's no good. It's no good. But I think diet again. There's the whole diet thing is a weird one. There's a lot of one size fits all approach when it comes to dieting and things like that. Plus, it's super gay, isn't it? Let's be real. To like be counting calories and shit like that. It's a bit gay in it. Let's be real. But yeah, there's a one size fits all approach where people kind of act like this diet's going to be beneficial for everybody. This, that, and the third. No, it's not. I guess you have to just experiment with what foods you like, what responds well to you. Because I think we all know what we respond well to in regards to foods. I know what I respond well to, which is mainly like red meat, white meat, fish. I don't like I don't respond well to bread, pasta, things like that. Certain vegetables I don't respond well to. I know what I respond well to. I primarily seem to be better on animal products more than anything else. Occasionally some vegetables. But fruit for me, fruit doesn't seem to work well with me for whatever reason. I just don't feel good when I eat fruit. It's weird. It's weird. I know you get all these like people say, You need a balanced diet. You need fruit. You need vegetables. You need meat. This, that, and the other. But fruit to me is just never really jived properly. I don't know what it is. Yeah, Navarrete versus Valdez could be fight of the year. I've got a sneaky feeling. Don't call it as gospel because I might change my mind. I've got a really weird feeling that Valdez is gonna do a similar job to what he did against Burchell. You know what I'm saying? There are similarities between between Burchell and Navarrete in certain ways. They were kind of unorthodox in their approach, high output, very aggressive, left openings. They really relied on taking you in deep waters, beating you up and drowning you. Valdez is an astute counterpuncher with good power, good timing. He can make your aggression work against you. And Navarrete in his last fight got badly hurt by Liam Wilson. So that fight has me wondering, is Valdez the same guy as the Burchell fight? That's the question as well. I think that's a very good fight. I really do. I think that's a great fight. I think that's a great fight. I think it's going to be entertaining. I could see it going both ways. Right now, I've got a sneaky feeling Valdez is going to pull something out of the bag, but I might change my mind. I'd like Navarrete to win, being the younger guy, more to offer going forwards, and I like his style better as well. It's a great fight. It's an excellent fight. Yeah, that fight deserves some love, no doubt. Maybe not pound for pound number one, Pimp My Sniper. Maybe not pound for pound one. Lifting weights and doing cardio helped a lot with losing those initial 2 stone. Also, as well as drinking lots of water every day. Water is, yeah, that's one thing I do neglect actually, is drinking water. I drink a lot of like black coffee. That's my go-to drink, to be honest with you, is black coffee. But water is, yeah. When I go for a water kick, you immediately can tell the difference after like a day. Your skin looks clearer, looks brighter. You just feel better in general, less tired. Yeah, health in general is way too overgeneralized, yeah. Yeah, I think we definitely do in modern society here in the Western world, especially. Yeah, we overeat, no doubt, no doubt. That's one thing I'd love to do though. If I ever like make enough money or whatever it may be, I'd love to be in the position to where I could like hunt and catch some of my own food, things like that. Because I done that. Not So I done that a bit when I was younger with my dad. So we used to go to like the beach and like catch crab and lobster, scallops, things like that. And I swear to God, like that food, once you catch it, tastes so much better. And also, my dad used to. He was a painter and decorator, proper working class guy. But he used to work for a lot of like rich folk, and they used to go on hunts, like pheasant hunts and things like that. And he always used to get like fresh pheasant and things like that. So we was broke as fuck eating pheasant, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, like if you've had like proper like hunted food that's like out in the wild and free range, healthy, it tastes so much better. Unbelievably different in taste. It's unbelievable the difference in taste. A big up, Matt, man. Thank you. Hope you're good. Really hope Spence retires. Clearly in a bad way. I have that suspicion as well. I have that suspicion in regards to Errol Spence. Listen, I'm sure he's not going to retire. And ultimately, I guess in the foreseeable future, will be proven right or wrong in regards to his standing. Right? Will be proven right or wrong. But I've got a feeling it's more than just weight cutting or a bad weight cut. I've got a feeling it's more than that. Initially, when I watched it, like I say, I was up till 5 a.m. to catch it. I was like 12 Heinekens deep. I wasn't in like exactly the most conscious state, let's put it that way. But watching it back, yeah, I kind of realized, it looked to my eye that Spence was definitely compromised in some sort of way. Now, what the reasoning was for that, we shall see, I guess, in the near future if he fights again. But yeah, I kind of want him to retire as well. I do. And thank you, Matt, by the way. Thank you. Yeah, doctors forced to try and assess patients in 15 minutes or less. Will tell you privately that's not nearly enough time to really get a sense of the patient. Yeah, facts. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, that's the main thing though, Nordic, is making sure they are healed before you go back. Because like if you go back a little too soon, you're just gonna like re-aggravate them and you're gonna be out for longer. Yeah, it's frustrating, no doubt. It always happens as well when you start to build that momentum. And then yeah, something will happen. Like you'll get a little twinge in your shoulder or whatever it is, or your back, whatever. Listen, I think there was something up with it, but that's just me. Valdez is going to counter Navarrete to death. He's going to walk into a bomb. I could see that happening, Johnny. I could see that happening. I've just got weird vibes. It's going to be similar to Burchell. The only difference is maybe maybe Burchell was tight at the weight when he fought Valdez. Navarrete's not going to be as tight. I don't know, man. It's a good fight though. I think it could be a great fight. It could be a great fight. It could be a great fight. Yeah, no doubt. Watching Wings versus Boogie gave me either inspiration or false hope. I'm not sure which. Bro, there's some influencers you'd knock out. There's some influencers I'd knock out as well. I feel like I could knock. I feel like genuinely I could beat some of those guys without training. I'm not gonna lie. Like some guys are horrendous. There are some guys though who are okay, considering the level. I down at least 4 liters of water every day, as Eddie would say, game changer. But it helps your skin. It helps your skin, no doubt. It helps your skin. Errol looked like he'd been hotboxing in his car with Snoop Dogg when he walked into the ring. I know he's always had like a lazy-eyed look I know he's always had a lazy-eyed look about him, but this was different. Yeah. And to me, it's the speech patterns. Because people have said that for a lot. I've suspected Errol's punch resistance has been waning for a while. And people have talked about the speech. It was only going back and actually listening, you kind of realize that it is drastically different. And listen, I know he's got veneers, fake teeth, I get it. And they take some time to adjust to. But I know old people with like false teeth. I know old people with false teeth. I'm sure you've had grandparents with false teeth. And eventually they sound like they've always sounded. It's been like 4 years since the crash, whatever it is, nearly 4 years. That doesn't explain, like, it's almost like he's lost for words all the time. It's weird. And again, I hope I'm wrong. Because I get his fans are toxic and, scummy. I get it. And seeing those guys take an L, I guess for some people is fun. But if that guy is unhealthy, I'd rather not see him fight again. I wouldn't want to see. I wouldn't want to see him get like hurt or when it could have been prevented. Do you know what I mean? I understand that's the reality of boxing, but if it's a fair fight between two guys who are healthy, then it is what it is, really, isn't it? It's informed consent. But if he's actually deteriorating, I'd rather not see him fight again. I'd rather not see him get like needlessly hurt when it could have been prevented. Personally. I was the same. A bong hit and about my body weight in caffeine deep. The performance looked great. Upon watching it back in the morning, Spence looked very off. Spent most of the fight on rubbery legs. And yeah, to me, it was especially apparent. I mean, because of he was getting rocked by jabs, by quick. Yeah, they were quick jabs. They were hard jabs. I get it. But we've seen Errol Spence take solid straight right hands from Kell Brook. Are we saying Crawford's jab is harder than Kell Brook's straight right hand? Come on now. There was something wrong with Spence, in my opinion. He wasn't at his optimum best. I think even the biggest Crawford fan, if they were honest, they would admit that. To me, the question is, to what extent is Errol Spence or was Errol Spence compromised? Was it just a weight cut issue? That's what I hope. Or is it something more serious? That's the question. Is it something more serious? I don't know. I have my suspicions, though. Yeah, there were even little signs in the Garcia Ugas fight. Yeah, and if it was like I'm sure you've all heard that call from BDA. If it makes sense to a certain degree. People are going to say, well, he beat Garcia, he beat Ugas, and at times he looked pretty good, especially in the Ugas fight. But if it is that, if it is like a residual brain damage or residual effects to the brain after the accident, it could be degenerative, where it just slowly gets worse over time. Because it's not like this guy had a little fender bender at 30 miles an hour on a back road. This guy went, God knows how fast he was going. He flew out of a fucking Ferrari and went God knows how many feet onto the sidewalk. It wasn't just like a little fender bender. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, Meldrick Taylor's a great example. He fought on for way too long. When was Chavez Taylor the first fight? Was it 1990? Because he was fighting in the 2000s, Meldrick Taylor. Let's have a look when that fight was. Meldrick Taylor. When did he fight Chavez the first time? It was either 1990 or 1991. March 1990 was when he fought Chavez for the first time. And he carried on fighting until 2002. Yeah, facts. I agree. What's up, Larry? How you doing? Yeah, Kell Brook also got hurt by a jab against Crawford, and he was definitely drained for that fight. Yeah, he looked like a crackhead in the Crawford fight. Kell Brook, he looked terrible. Yeah, Warrington is worth a bet against Lee Wood. He's got a chance if he can smother the power of Lee Wood, who's a boxer puncher. He's got a chance. Lee Wood primarily generates power at long range with his straight right or mid range with like an uppercut or a hook. If Warrington can get to the inside and stay there, he's got a great chance of outworking Lee Wood. He's got a chance in that fight, Warrington. It's how he takes the shots for me. if his chin is good, I think he's got a great chance in that fight. Muhammad Ali degenerated too. It was a methodical decline, and there were signs of it all the way up to the Shavers fight in '77. But because he was such a big business, nobody was going to stop it. Yeah, are we really still in that era of promoter scummery? Yeah, I mean, I guess all it takes is to maybe compromise one doctor. It doesn't take much, right? It doesn't take much. Apparently, Spence was being chased by a rapper from the same city as him, which is what led to him crashing his Ferrari. That's the first I've heard of it. Is there any, validity to these rumors? I've never heard that before. That whole situation surrounding his car crash is pretty deep. I'll look into it. Yeah, I've seen people argue if he was sanctioned by a doctor, he's clearly healthy. People seem to forget James Toney was still fighting in 2017. That's a great point. Oliver McCall was sanctioned to fight at 54 years old, I want to say. Oliver McCall. It's madness. Madness, yeah. It's not outside of the realms of possibility, is it? Let's be real. They sanctioned Evander Holyfield. Or maybe he wasn't sanctioned by a recognised body, but listen, he still fought at 60, whatever he was. Brooks' mistake against Spence was trying to knock out Spence. Brooks' mistake against Spence was trying to knock Spence out early. If you watch it, Brook lands a ton of power punches on Spence early, but can't get him out of there. Yeah, Brooks started that fight very fast. He's another one, though, like Spence, pissed his potential away. Because I think Spence was a very good fighter with a lot of talent, good fundamentals. Same with Kell Brook. But Kell Brook, again, a guy outside the ring who never lived the life, blew up in weight, alcohol, partying, getting stabbed, God knows what else. He was another guy who wasted his talent. Brook, to me, was one of the best talents we've seen in this country for a long time. And we're a country who really overhypes fighters. But I always believed in Kell Brook's talent, his ability. I think it was always there. He never lived for life, though. He never lived it. Yeah, that's the first I've heard of it, Mr. Doc. Yeah. That's a crazy stat. Roy Jones is still fighting and is the most active former heavyweight champion in history, passing Jack Johnson. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, I think it was the worst Spence we've ever seen as well. My question, like I said, is what was the reasoning for it? Was it just a bad weight cut? Is it too much now? Or is there something more seriously wrong with him? Yeah, Lampley says they sanctioned blind in one eye Gatti versus Floyd. Yeah, I heard that interview on Johnny's channel, yeah. And also, listen, even like MMA, Michael Bisping's the perfect example. He was fighting with one eye since the who did he get knocked out by head kick? Who was it? The Brazilian guy. I forgot his name. Vitor Belfort. Vitor Belfort. He got knocked out by Belfort, and that fight fucked his left eye up. And he was fighting for one eye for the rest of his career. I know it's MMA, but some of these same individuals are involved, it's the same sanctioning bodies or athletic commissions. Yeah, the same athletic commissions, I mean. Because he said he basically, found a way to fake the tests, the eyesight tests, and he got away with it. Maybe he was stretching the truth a little bit, but who knows? He's clearly one-eyed now. But there you go. Yeah, people forget there was a brief time when hardcores were calling for Floyd to fight Brook for undisputed. Yeah, people forget about that. Yeah. Yeah, Brook was the IBF champion while Floyd had the other belts. Yeah. But yeah, to me, Kell Brook was one of the guys who, I wouldn't say Kell Brook was hyped in the UK. He was around for a long, long time. But I would say he was one of the legitimate talents from the UK who genuinely had world-class potential. I think he was a marvelous boxer puncher, Kell Brook. Again, I think the biggest waste of talent I've seen since I've been watching boxing, from a UK perspective, that is. From a UK perspective, people are going to say Billy Joe Saunders. I tend to disagree about Billy Joe. I don't think he was as good as people said he was personally, but I kind of felt Kell Brook he could have been very good. I guess one of the American equivalents would have been Frankie Gomez, if you remember him. He just went missing though, Frankie Gomez. He was unbeaten. He just beat Mauricio Herrera, schooled him like 10 rounds to 0, and then just vanished. Yeah, they stopped Joyce though, yeah. Yeah. With eye damage, yep. Yeah, that rematch is interesting. I'm looking forward to it. I hope he's not as light this time around. I hope he's not as light. This was a great point. I heard Fight Film talk about this. This seems to be becoming a trend in boxing now. Making weigh-ins behind closed doors. That's just came out of nowhere. Who does that favor? It's weird, very weird. He was a little one-dimensional, Brook. Kind of had a lack of an inside game, but I always felt I always liked his jab. Really good jab, decent gauge of distance, good straight punches, decent technique on the straight punches. I just feel he should have done it. He should have done a lot more with his career. Should have done a lot more. But yeah, that is a great point about the weigh-ins now being behind closed doors, and then the ceremonial weigh-in. That's a great point. Because I've only really noticed that in the last 18 months or so. It's happened to. There's been a couple more fights where it's happened. I forget though. I forget. Did it happen in the Ryan Garcia fight? It's definitely happened in a couple more fights. Yeah, I'm not sure what he did, Frankie Gomez, but he was good. He was skilled. He was with Freddie Roach. Yeah, it fucks over betters. That's a great point. Yeah, hidden weigh-ins. Yeah, that's a great point because there's a lot of pundits there's a lot of punters who wait to the weigh-in. There's no doubt. That's a very good point. Yeah. Is there a top rank card on Friday? Who's fighting on Friday? What, in America? Is it in America? Oh, do you mean that card in Ireland? Is it in Ireland? I I got no idea, bro. I'll be real. Yeah, I think the Ingle style was all wrong for Brook. He needed a good high guard and some proper balance. Yeah, I mentioned in my stream before the Lee McGregor fight that had I seen the weigh-in before, I wouldn't have bet on Lee. Yeah, that was a good fight though. That was a good fight. Cuevas versus Mosquera. I can't even see that fight on BoxRec, bro. I can't see it. I can't even see it on BoxRec. To tell you the truth. I'll have to look at it, bro. One giveaway is when fighters don't look at the scale. It happens a lot. Yeah, okay. The Davis Garcia fight was closed doors, but if I remember correctly, wasn't media allowed in because I remember seeing videos, not even videos for Spence and Crawford. I think you're right, Seagar. I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. Because even at the UFC, like official weigh-ins, there's always media there. It was bizarre that there was no media for yeah, that's a great point. It is strange. It is strange. It is strange. Crawford Wilder. Speaking of Wilder, I hope we get the Joshua Wilder fight end of this year, early next year. Joshua's fighting Dillian White in a week's time. I think Joshua's going to actually look quite good against Dillian. I think Dillian is done in terms of punch resistance anyway. I think Joshua's going to look quite good in that fight. And yeah, hopefully we see that one next. Hopefully we see it next. Yeah, it was a good fight, Nordic. That card was good as well because there's a couple of upsets on the undercard. That was the Channel 5 card. Yeah, that's a good card. And yeah, good main event. I felt they got the scorecards bang on as well. 115, 112 or 115, 113, whatever it was. Super close fight. But the Mexican dude just about nicked it. It's actually good to see for once. Good competitive fight, judged correctly. Yeah, I hope we see it, bro. December, January. I'm not particularly fussed, but I want to see it. Yeah, I want to see it. It's a good fight still. Yeah, Joshua should win pretty easily, but he'll probably be more cautious and less aggressive than the first fight. I think he'll start that way, Nordic. I think he'll start that way, but I think eventually he'll get himself into the fight. He'll gauge that distance. He'll probably approach it similar to the Jermaine Franklin fight early on, and then I think he'll start to open up maybe midway through. Whereas when Dillian starts to lose his shape, when he starts to get a bit more desperate, I think he'll time Dillian and knock him out mid rounds. I think he'll get Dillian out of there. To be honest, I think Joshua knocks out Dillian mid rounds. Yeah, I saw this. Yeah, I saw this on Twitter about Bud missing weight by like it wasn't much, was it? It's like 1 point something pounds, maybe something like that. But I never saw any. Yeah, I couldn't ascertain whether it was true or not. It's strange, very strange. Yeah, I think Dillian's done in terms of like punch resistance. Yeah, I think he's there to be knocked out. I think he's there to be knocked out. I don't like that cross arm defense either that he's using. That he used in the Jermaine Franklin fight. I don't like it at all. People say, oh, it's going to block the uppercut of AJ. Look at how he holds the cross arm guard. He holds it too high. He'll get knocked out by AJ. What is it with Buddy McGirt, by the way? He's like that person who takes in like stray dogs and cats, you know, who have had a hard life. That's what Buddy McGirt is in the boxing world. He'll take fighters who have been knocked out a whole bunch of times and basically see them through the rest of their careers, their last 2 or 3 fights. What is it with Buddy McGirt that attracts these sort of fighters? It's weird. Yeah, we was talking about this earlier. I think Benavidez beats him personally. In fairness about Dillian, his speech has always been awful. But I'll have to go back and like compare and contrast old interviews to now. Chisora's one guy who you can clearly tell the difference. If you watch like Chisora in the build up to the Vitali fight compared to now, you can clearly hear the difference. Clearly. Dillian White, I've not like checked it. I've not like tried to compare, so I'm not sure about Dillian. I'm not sure about Dillian personally. Hot take: Chisora's armadillo / Fraser defense is better than Dillian's. Yeah, Dillian looks super awkward using it, whereas at least Chisora can be somewhat awkward with it. He's a bit awkward when he does it, but here's a controversial take. Not even a controversial take, but I'm not even convinced Joshua has to be all that confident to knock out Dillian. I think some of those shots he landed on Franklin would probably knock out Dillian. I'll be real. I think Dillian's chin is gone. I think it's gone. Yeah, I think Callum Smith will give Beterbiev a hard fight. I think he'll certainly give him some scares, no doubt. No doubt in my mind. I think you'll see a much better Callum Smith than we saw against Canelo Alvarez. And Beterbiev's at the age now where, listen, would I be shocked if Callum lands a perfect shot and knocks him out? I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I wouldn't be shocked. I think it'll be a good fight. I do. McGirt is or was connected to John Gotti. I never knew that. But he seems to be always like, for the last 20 odd years, 25 years, just consistently gets these sort of gigs with like washed up fighters or fighters who are past their primes, you know, coming off some bad losses. Seems to be a trend with Buddy. I mean, if I was AJ, I would retire and not be seen again. I think, yeah, then I'm not really sure what else AJ could do outside boxing. Personally, he's not exactly the most charismatic individual, is he? So I don't know, maybe some side punditry gigs, something like that. But yeah, he won't be seen much when he retires. Yeah, if AJ lands that, if AJ landed like a screw left uppercut on Franklin, if that landed on Dillian, he's definitely getting hurt. Yeah. I would sack all of the higher ups, Brandon. Guys like Richard Murtaugh and guys like that. I'd sack all of those guys and employ football people, director of football, etc. That'll be the main thing, to get the actual infrastructure, footballing infrastructure correct. Because we have guys running our club who are not really football people. Unlike Man City, for example. He might be. He's 38 years old. He's always, he's been picking up injuries in the last few years. So you never know with a guy like Beterbiev. The only saving grace I will say is he lives his life outside the ring. Doesn't drink, doesn't party, or this sort of stuff. So maybe that gives him a little more longevity, but the injuries are concerning. Plus 38 years old. Yeah, if I had AJ's money, I'd find an island somewhere. I'd probably agree, bro. I'd probably agree. But yeah, I'll be real. I've had my issues with AJ. Like, I've had my criticisms of AJ. But if he comes back, so he's fought Jermaine Franklin, which was what it was, but it was a fine comeback fight. He's fighting Dillian White next, who, for better or worse, is still top 10. If he were to fight Wilder after that, that's a good little spell for a non-champion. That's a good little, a good run of fights for a non-champion. No, he's had like 20 fights. Beterbiev, yeah. He's had, I think he's 20-0. And yeah, you're right. Some of his workouts are crazy. Like, some of the weight stuff he does is crazy. Like, he even does like weight exercises with his wrists, which makes sense. But yeah, it must be so strenuous. I think it's with certain countries. So Italy was like this. If you guys remember Roberto Camarelle, who was a really good super heavyweight amateur. He was like a world-class amateur for a number of years, probably the best part of a decade. And people were always asking, when's he going to turn pro? When's he going to turn pro? But I saw an interview with him. Well, I read it years ago. And he basically said he was too well looked after to turn pro. He was on a really good annual salary when he was amateur, really good annual salary. And when he retired, he was guaranteed like a job in policing or something like that. Some sort of civil servants type of job, well-paid civil servants job. So he never needed to turn pro. I'm assuming it's something similar in Russia and countries like that who really take the amateurs seriously. I think they look after these guys. To the point to where there's probably a better path staying amateur. Because yeah, Camarelle was looked after by the government because of what he was doing on the amateur scene. He was looked after. Yeah, Teofilo Stevenson, yeah, indeed. Yeah, because he was offered like a pro contract to fight Ali, right? Wasn't he offered like $1 million? Something like that. And yeah, he never took it. And there was countless like fighters from the Soviet Union back then as well who medaled in the Olympics, in the Europeans, etc., the World Championships. Countless like Soviet bloc fighters who medaled all the time, who we never saw turn pro. Guys we don't even know the names of. Plus all the Cubans as well. It's crazy, all the fighters we could have seen that we never saw because of, political situations across the globe. But it's interesting. I think now we're seeing, I might be wrong, and there's going to be still exceptions, but I've noticed a difference in Cuban fighters now, the newer generation. They seem to be far more understanding that boxing is a spectator sport. Robese Ramirez to me is really good to watch. He mixes things up. He's got a nice rhythm. He throws shots. He tries to hurt his opponents. He mixes things up. David Morrell is another guy who does the same thing. Tries to be entertaining. Tries to knock people out. The guy I saw on the Errol Spence undercard who needs to be kept. You need to keep an eye on him. A guy called Tejas, who knocked out Sergio Garcia in the third round. Sergio Garcia is not world level, but he's a really good European level guy. Really good European level, maybe fringe world level. Many thought he beat Sebastian Fundora. And Tejas, who was 4-0 going into that fight, or 5-0, only had 6 rounders. He knocked out Sergio Garcia in the third round. I think these guys are actually starting to develop their style as they've been in the pro ranks longer. Similar to the Eastern Europeans, who always had that kind of stereotypical upright jab right hand style, straight up and down. They always had that kind of stereotypical view placed upon them. I think the Cubans may be going through something similar. I think their style in the pros may be evolving. Yeah, there's still going to be guys like Frank Sanchez, but I think a lot more of these guys get it now. And that Tejas, I think is it Yoenis Tejas? He looked really interesting. I think he's like 23, 24, something like that. Knocking out Sergio Garcia the way he did in 3 rounds. That's impressive. Not that Sergio Garcia is a world beater, but he proved against Fundora he's at a certain level. So I think you may be seeing a change in the Cuban style. I hope so. Yeah, these modern Cubans seem to be forcing the pace and putting combinations together. Yeah, it's good to see. Yeah, I suspect he'll go to middleweight. Yeah, Casamayor was good to watch. He stuck around a bit too long at the end, but good fighter. Yeah, Sergio Garcia is not a bum. He's again upper level European level. So I'd say he's just above European level, maybe fringe world level. I would say. And yeah, Tejas knocked him out brutally. Not brutally, but he stopped him well. He stopped him well. I want to say his first name is Yoenis. Yeah, Yoenis Tejas. Yeah. So yeah, he's 23 years old, 5'10", 154. Interesting fighter. Because he originally turned pro in Russia. He originally defected to Russia, but couldn't really get the opponents. Then he moved to America a couple of years later. And yeah, he's picked up a good win. According to BoxRec as well, he's fighting in August. That can't be right. Hope it is. Needs to stay active. But he's a guy I put my stamp of approval on in terms of being entertaining from what I saw. How good he is, we'll see. How far he goes, we'll see. But I saw a fighter who's worth following, certainly. How highly do you rate Bomac after Crawford's performance? I think Bomac's one of those guys who's like Virgil Hunter, who primarily is kind of lucked out with getting that one guy. He did an okay job with Jamel Herring. But I tend to think he's going to be a guy like Virgil Hunter. We'll see. But yeah, he was my highlight of the undercard, Mr. Doc, was Yoenis Tejas. I thought he looked good. He was my highlight of the undercard. Definitely. Good fighter. That's a good fight. Yeah, Robesi Ramirez versus Luis Alberto Lopez. Yeah, I think that's the best fight at featherweight right now. Because I think Lopez is good. He's very unorthodox. He's aggressive like you expect from a Mexican fighter, but he is very unorthodox. He's got a strange style. His upper body movement's really perplexing, and he throws shots that look out of range, but he seems to close the distance real quick. He almost jumps in with shots, particularly the uppercuts and hooks and things like that. He's an interesting fighter, Lopez. Interesting fighter. Him and Ramirez is a really good fight, really good clash of styles. I'd like to see that fight. Yeah, the Isaac Cruz fight wasn't great. I felt Cruz won. I don't know why it was a split decision, personally. I felt Cruz won. It wasn't an easy fight due to the style, the taller, rangier guy. Kind of awkward as well. But I felt Cruz won pretty comfortably, personally. But there you go. That's just my opinion. It was an okay fight. It wasn't terrible, but yeah, it wasn't great. The Donaire fight was okay against Santiago. But Donaire just didn't have it anymore, did he? Still powerful, still dangerous. But Santiago just out-hustled him, really. I felt Santiago boxed a decent fight. Didn't get too greedy. I liked how he was kind of picking his attacks and picking his flurries. He would go in, land a 2 or 3 punch combination, get out, pick his moments, boxed a disciplined fight without running. Santiago is one of those guys, yeah, he lucked out fighting Donaire when he did. I wouldn't call him world-class, but he's solid. He's a solid fighter, Santiago. He's solid. Solid guy. Good discipline. Showed a good chin when he did get caught. Decent fighter. Deserved the win. I gave Donaire like 2 rounds, maybe. We'll see what he does next. Santiago. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say top 10 pound for pound, but who's he beat? So he's gone through some even before winning the title, he went through some unbeaten guys like Gabriel Flores. I wouldn't say pound for pound, but he's a good fighter. Good win over Warrington. Good win over Michael Conlan. He's fighting soon as well, Joet Gonzalez. That's a decent fight, but I'd expect he wins that fight. Joet Gonzalez is one of those guys who is decent, sort of like fringe top 10 level, but not world class. When you run and throw soft punches, you don't deserve to get the decision. Yeah, I agree. That guy who fought Cruz was a bit too. He wasn't super negative, but yeah, he could have done a lot more. Because he took the shots of Isaac Cruz really well. He had like a weird, like hands down approach, and he took a lot of flush shots from Isaac Cruz. He took them well. He should have just tried to force the issue more. Well, apparently, JD, the WBO are going to strip Jamel after the Canelo fight, and Tim Tszyu becomes the WBO champion. So there's also Tim Tszyu maybe for Crawford if he goes to 154. But I do worry about Jamel going to 168 and then coming back down to 154. I do worry about. I would worry about that personally because I think listen, I think Canelo's on the slide, but he's got enough to beat Jamel at 64. At 68. I'm not sure how Jamel carries that weight at 68. I know he's a big dude, but he's never carried that in the ring before under the lights. You know, I'm sure he's going to have extra muscle. You know, he's never carried that on a fight night scenario under the lights. You know, when the pressure's on. I think he might gas out in that one against Canelo. I think he might get tired quite quickly. Does he get stopped? I'm not sure. Jamel seems to have quite a good chin, but again, at 68, I don't know, man. I think Jamel's taking that fight, you know, because it's great money, really, more so than anything. I don't blame him. I don't blame him, but may take something out of his career going forwards if he tries to make 54 again, especially. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe Jamel surprises me. I'd like to see Jamel beat Canelo personally, but there you go. Not the biggest Canelo fan, as you guys know. But I don't think it will happen. When is that fight anyway? Is that September? Yeah, September, isn't it? September. Speaking of that fight, has there been any announcement of the undercard? It's not even on BoxRec, apparently. It's not even on BoxRec. So yeah, I'm assuming the undercard's not been announced. I can't expect it's going to be anything good. Bro, I can't believe Derek Chisora is fighting on that fucking AJ undercard. Yeah, I'd agree, JD. Yeah, Jamel should campaign at 160 after the Canelo fight. I agree. I think that's really where he should be right now is 160. Because 160 as well is up in the air, to be honest with you. Jamal Charlo needs to vacate, I'll tell you that much. Jamal Charlo needs to vacate, go to 68, fight Caleb Plant. Because that fight's made itself now, hasn't it, with what went on? That fight's made itself. So Jamal needs to vacate the title, the WBC title. Adames gets elevated. Carlos Adames, he's the interim champion. Then maybe Jamel versus Carlos Adames. I'd like to see that fight. I think Adames is decent. I think he's a decent fighter. I think that would be a good fight, actually. Carlos Adames versus Jamel Charlo. As for Tim Tszyu, I mean, it's up to him now. I think what you'll see is I think Jamel will vacate every belt. Personally, I could see that happening. And I want to see Tim Tszyu try to collect all those belts, whoever it's against. I watched the first few El Pinche, but I can't lie, I haven't watched them. I haven't watched them recently. When is the next? Sorry, who's on tomorrow's card? Is it on DAZN? Is it on DAZN? Because the card I'm looking at on BoxRec isn't great. It's not great. Probably not, bro. Well, I know not. Yeah, I won't be watching it. There's a guy on the undercard called Charlemagne Metonyekpon. What a name. Yeah, Jamal Charlo. Disappointment is the only word I can use to describe Jamal Charlo. Again, to me, listen, man, just vacate the 160 title, go to 168, fight Caleb Plant, and who knows, if you win, maybe you get the Canelo fight. But I don't see why Jamal is just holding that title hostage at 60. Who can he fight at 60? Because he's not going to fight Janibek. That's not going to happen. So what else is there? There's nothing there for him. Don't get me wrong, I'd like to see the Adames fight, but is it worth holding the division up for 2 years? Fuck me. What's up, Preston? How you doing, bro? What's up? I don't think so, man. I think that card's mainly heavyweight. So you've got the main event, Joshua White. Then you've got Filip Hrgović, Dempsey McKean. Then Chisora versus Gerald Washington. Johnny Fisher versus that random guy for the Southern Area title. That's 4 10 or 12 rounders. So 12 round, yeah, there's not going to be many more main fights, bro. Maybe one more. Maybe you'll get one fight that's non-heavyweight, like a good 10 rounder, 12 rounder, maybe. Yeah, Johnny Fisher, he seems like a nice guy, but I'm kind of getting sick of this guy being plastered everywhere. Every single fucking boxing interview channel, I see this guy or his dad. It's like, bro, he's like the next Dave Allen in terms of like just being sold on being a character. Nothing to do with boxing ability or merit or anything like that. It's purely about he can sell a few tickets. His dad is, a Z-list celebrity. That's really it, though, isn't it? As much as he seems like a nice kid, is that what British boxing is now? Just, low rent characters and, gimmicks. Is that what it is now? And listen, I'm sure he works hard, but a guy like Johnny Fisher, to me, should have a year out where he's fighting on real small undercards, like real kind of small local cards, while getting good sparring. See, if I was Matchroom and I had a guy like Johnny Fisher, I know the world doesn't work like this because he sells tickets. I get it. But if I was Matchroom, fair enough, sign him, do what they've done, have his first few fights on DAZN. Then what I would do, I'd pay him for a year to have fights away from the camera on real small shows. 6, 7, 8 fights in a year on real small shows. While he's getting good sparring, he's learning away from the camera. And see if he makes improvements. Because so far in his career, I can't lie, from his pro debut till now, which is about 10 fights, I've not really seen any drastic improvements from the guy. He's in his early 20s, no amateur pedigree, and he's having to worry about shifting tickets and doing media appearances, this, that, and the other. I think it's all a bit too soon. Again, this is what I'm talking about. Yeah, he's at this IFL event. Yeah. Yeah, great way to spend £95. You can have floor seats to IFL Live. Christ almighty. I could think of a million ways to spend that £95 better. I really could. Mike Planier, I remember him, yeah. He beat that American dude, I forgot his name. Or did he lose? Sorry, he may have lost. I don't even know. Did he beat Joshua Greer, I think. I think it was Joshua Greer. I think that's who he beat. He's another guy, bro. Keith Thurman. Where is that guy, by the way? I don't think he looked particularly good against Mario Barrios, personally. But given how Spence looked in that last fight, bro, Keith Thurman might beat him. But yeah, Keith Thurman's another guy. Do you remember when he when he first started to get headlines, Keith Thurman? He was saying all the right things. I've got to know, I'm not afraid to let it go, all that stuff, wanting to fight everybody. Soon as that guy made a bit of money, this guy, man, I'm sick of Keith Thurman, personally. Sick of him. Another talented fighter who just, yeah, got a little bit of money and let it all go to his head. Yeah, that's a good domestic fight. Yeah, Chamberlain versus Lawal. Yeah, that's a decent domestic fight. Cruiserweight. Yeah, good fight. That's on the Boatsi card, right? Yeah, good fight. Good fight. I like that fight. I like that fight. I prefer Chamberlain. I think he's a good boxer at domestic level. I might favour him to win. I'm not sure though. I'm not sure. Lawal is bigger puncher as well. Good fight though. Good fight. Decent fight. But yeah, I'll take Chamberlain. I'll take Chamberlain in that one. But yeah, this weekend's quiet. All we really have is fucking what's his face? Nate Diaz and Jake Paul. Which doesn't really fill you with much excitement, does it? Nate Diaz and Jake Paul, fuck me. We know what's gonna happen there. Nate Diaz is gonna get cleaned out. He's another guy, man. Punch drunk as hell. Totally punch drunk. So yeah, he'll get knocked out in a couple. There's not even a real fight on the undercard either. How highly do you rate Ammo Williams? I think there's talent there, but I'm not convinced by his mental state, to put it that way. He's had a couple of moments in his career already where he's kind of gone off the rails and lost focus. And sometimes that even comes through in the ring in certain performances, like the Kieran Conway fight, for example. I've seen him in fights where he's looked really promising, and other fights when he's not looked all that great. Talented fighter, but I don't really suspect he will do anything special. Probably gets a title shot, something like that. But I don't see a guy who is I don't see a guy who's going to be super successful at world level. I think there's talent there, like I said, but I'm not convinced by the mental side of his game. Personally, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. But yeah, I mean, he's fighting. Well, he should be fighting Felix Cash soon, which is a good fight. I think that's the sort of fight both guys need. Both guys need right now. Felix Cash is another one though. There's been a couple of fights where he's looked really good, like the Denzel Bentley fight. But after that, he's looked fucking piss poor. He nearly lost to that Russian dude, Madayev. And the last fight he had was an 8-rounder against an unknown journeyman. He looked terrible. Abdullah Mason looks good. He's one of Top Rank's best prospects, yeah. So far, from what I've seen at least, he looks good. He looks good, yeah. I think initially Keyshawn Davis was getting the hype. Abdullah Mason might be better. He does look good. He does look good. But again, it's very early. It's very early. Even with Keyshawn Davis, he's not been as I think the last couple of performances, particularly the last one, was criticised. But for an 8-0 guy, I thought he looked okay, personally. Didn't blow my socks off or anything, but for a young 8-0 guy to beat Francesco Patera like that, I didn't think it was a bad performance. I've seen Patera fight a number of times, and he's a good European level guy. So for a prospect to more or less wash him, Patera had a couple of good moments, but Keyshawn Davis clearly won. It was a decent performance. I get you. Yeah, Preston, I agree, bro. Like, Prime Spence beats Furman every day of the week, but does that version exist anymore? Does he exist anymore? Not sure. He surprised me, El Pinche against the African dude, Nakadia. He surprised me in that fight because I'd seen him prior to that. I forget what fight it was. No, yeah. No, I'm thinking of somebody else. But yeah, Muratala, he looked good against Nakatia. He looked good, so I think he's definitely got potential. He's definitely got potential. He's a relatively big lightweight as well. I think he's like 5'8" ish. Decent power. Looks interesting. He looks interesting. I wonder what he does next. I do wonder what he does next. See, I wouldn't mind seeing him fight William Zepeda. I think that would be a great fight. That would be a great fight. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked, Matt, if he's on the source. Yeah, Furman's just been super inactive. I take Boots right now. I take Boots. I would take Boots. Yeah, yeah, Mr. Doc. Early in his career, Furman had a few fights at 54. I think some of those fights were even on HBO. Pretty certain. I think some of those fights were on HBO. Let's have a look back. Like the Carlos Quintana fight. I think that was at 54. But he was another guy like Keith Furman when he was coming up. He got a lot of hype. He got a lot of hype. But he never really realised it. He got a couple of good wins, don't get me wrong. Like, obviously, Sean Porter. I actually felt Sean Porter beat Keith Furman, but there you go. It was a close fight. He took Danny Garcia's cherry. Took his O. Yeah, HBO, yeah. I recall, yeah. I need to see more of Boots to talk about a prime Porter. I need to see more of Boots. But I like the look of Boots. I think he's a talented fighter, very talented. Yeah, Boots controls range too well for any version of Porter. I'd worry about the uppercuts, bro. When Porter's trying to steam in, I'd worry about those shots for Sean Porter. The uppercuts of Ennis. But yeah, Ennis looks good, man. Ennis looks good, no doubt. He's an exciting fighter. Looks very good. Given what's happening at 54, sorry, at 47 right now, if he can't get the Crawford fight, I'd like to see the Stanionis fight for Boots. I wouldn't mind seeing that fight if he can't get Crawford. I think that's the fight that makes most sense for him right now. If he can't get Crawford, would be Stanionis. Because Stanionis is decent. Stanionis is not a bad fighter. The only issue I've got with Stanionis, not due to his own fault, he's been inactive. Hang on. Yeah. Yeah, Ennis needs more fights. Yeah, Stanionis. Yeah, Stanionis for me would be a really fun fight because Stanionis is one of those guys. You look at him fight, and he doesn't excel in one area, but he does everything pretty well. Do you know what I'm saying? He's got a good jab, decent guard, good solid fundamentals, solid power, solid timing. You know, he does everything well, but he doesn't excel in one area. He's one of those sort of guys. And sometimes those guys can be real tough opponents. Yeah, Jimmy's talking his shit, man. I heard you, Jimmy, trolling some of those like pro LDBC guys prior to the fight, man. It's funny as hell. Speaking of Stanionis, what's happened to Butayev? That's a great point. Yeah, that fight with Stanionis and Butayev was a great fight last year. Was it last year? I think it was last year. That was the best welterweight fight of last year, if you think about it. It was a good fight. Stanionis is a 147 Frank Martin. I get what you mean in regards to being like solid but not spectacular. But yeah, I'd say skill for skill, Stanionis is better. But I get what you're saying. Like solid, but yeah, they don't really excel in one area. Yeah, but I'd say Stanionis is more skilled still. I never knew though. I never knew. So Frank Martin is 27, I believe. I never knew he started boxing at 18. To me, that makes his success where he's at more impressive. Because prior to that, I just kind of saw him as just a solid, relatively well schooled fighter. Nothing more. Like a decent-ish contender. Nothing more. But the fact he's done that from 18 to 27 is pretty impressive. You know, that's pretty impressive for a late start. Getting to where he's got to, especially at lightweight, is quite impressive. I never knew that about him. I never knew that. Yeah, that was it. It was on the Spence Crawford undercard. Yeah, have your fun. Have your fun, Jimmy, man. Have your fun. They can't complain about it. They can't complain about it. Like when they've been that invested, they can't complain when it comes back their way. Do you know what I'm saying? Big fights like that, though, it never ceases to amaze me. How over emotional the reactions are after the fight's transpired. You know, both on both sides almost, but especially the losing side. So emotional. I couldn't imagine getting that upset if a fighter I like lost. The only time I kind of get wound up is when fighters get robbed. That's the only time I get wound up. I've got a feeling. I've got a feeling Jamel won't move back down. I know he's saying he will, but I'm not so certain he will. It's a big ask. Going to 68 and then coming all the way back down. It's a big ask. Plus, maybe you might get Crawford Tim Zhu because Tim Tszyu's going to be the WBO champion soon because Jamel's getting stripped after the Canelo fight. And Tim Tszyu's the interim champion. But honestly, mate, Jamel versus Crawford would have been intriguing if Jamel stayed at 54, and he wasn't taking the Canelo fight. But now he's taking that fight. I think he's going to lose. Then he's going to come all the way back down. To me, that fight's now lost its luster, personally. No cap, I'd rather see Crawford fight Tim Tszyu. Not even lying. Or, better yet, if Charlo does come back down, fight Tim Tszyu first. Because then at least we'll know whether Charlo's still competitive at the weight. I like that fight, Jimmy. I do like that fight. I've got a feeling that Tim Tszyu is still being underestimated to a certain degree. By the way, I'm not saying he'd beat Crawford. But I think that fight is intriguing. I think it's an intriguing fight. I wouldn't mind seeing it. I certainly wouldn't mind seeing it. I wouldn't complain. Again, I do like the idea of Jamel versus Crawford, but it's just the fact he's gone to 68 and then would come back down, more than likely off a loss. And who knows how that loss could transpire. I think he will definitely lose. But especially if it's a bit of a beating or he gets knocked out or whatever. Yeah, that was a terrible robbery. Yeah, Romero versus Barroso. Yeah. He's a fool if that's the case, Jimmy. He's an absolute fool. He'll get himself seriously hurt. Yeah, I agree, Mr. Doc. Tim Tszyu is certainly in his prime right now. And like I've been saying, I've been preaching this for for a little while with Tim Tszyu. I like the activity. So he was scheduled to fight Jermell Charlo in January for a world title, for Undisputed, by the way, for Undisputed. And as far as he knew, after Charlo got injured, he was still going to get that fight. He could have waited around, waiting for the fight. And now he'd be in a position where Charlo's taken the Canelo fight, and he's been inactive all that time. The fact that Tim Tszyu took the initiative, fought Tony Harrison, fought Carlos Ocampo, I think that's been so beneficial for his career. I know the Ocampo fight only lasted one round, but at least it's a training camp. You was under the lights, you know? Imagine he never took those fights and he was just waiting around. That's a great move by him. I appreciated that. It's not really been spoken about enough because it shouldn't be being spoken about. Fighters should just do that. Fighters should do that, but we know how boxing is these days, man. These guys are lazy, like to wait around and, you know. But yeah, big up to Tim Tszyu, man, staying active. And he might be fighting, like I say, Brian Mendoza next. That's what I've heard. I've heard he could be fighting Brian Mendoza next, who just beat lanky guy Fundora. Yeah, exactly. Staying in fighting trim is an ancient boxing. Yeah, exactly, bro. And that's what Tim's done. Because again, imagine he never took those fights. waiting for the Charlo fight, and then Charlo takes this Canelo fight. He must be looking back and saying, thank God I took those fights. Because he's learned, he's developed, you know. Because the Tony Harrison fight, let's not forget, there was a certain amount of pressure going into that fight. Former unified champion in Tony Harrison. 2-time world champion, I believe, at 54. A lot of people felt he'd have a hard fight against Tony Harrison. Including myself, by the way. I felt Tony would give him trouble. He didn't really. That performance to me was very impressive. Very impressive. Tony can box. Good fight. Yeah, I'd like to see it as well. Good fight, Jimmy. Because Liam would take that fight if he beats Eubank. Smith will definitely take that fight. I'd like to see that as well. It's a good fight. But Smith has to beat Eubank. I don't think that's a foregone conclusion, like people say it is. I think Eubank still has a chance in that fight if he stays away. That's a great shout. Can you imagine the old retired boxers fighting each other? Julian Jackson versus Nigel Benn. Do you remember a few years ago? It wasn't that long ago. Maybe 5 years? When was it? Nigel Benn was going to come back and fight Saki Obika. If you guys remember, do you remember that? It's 4 years ago. O'Hara will knock him out, bro. If that fight happens anytime soon, O'Hara knocks him out. I'm convinced of it. That'd be a great redemption story, I think. You know, O'Hara's been in the wilderness for a little while now. You know, had his controversies in the past, the Josh Taylor situation, the quit job. Plus, he was thrown under the bus, let's be honest, by Eddie Hearn. He's been in the wilderness for a little while, had a lot of criticism. If he were to come back and knock out and knock out Rolly Romero, who's a bit of a stain on boxing, that'll be a great redemption story, I think. That'll be a good redemption story. And I do think O'Hara is better. I think O'Hara, neither guy's a technical mastermind, to put it that way. But I feel like O'Hara, his awkwardness is more almost refined in a weird way. He's got a better understanding of distance. I feel like he understands boxing a bit better, whereas Rolly Romero is just brute force and ignorance with his style. O'Hara can measure you with his lead hand and time you with a straight right or whatever. I think O'Hara will make Rolly struggle with the range in that fight. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it. Yeah, I agree, Jimmy. Yeah, Thurman was talented at one point in time. Yeah, OD's awkwardness is more calculated. Yeah, and Rolly's is brute force. Yeah, exactly. And I think that'll be the difference. I have seen O'Hara try to set guys up in his own way, particularly with his lead hand, to try and blind you, half step back, and then step in with his straight right hand, things like that. I've seen this guy try to set some primitive traps, whereas Rolly is just swing wild punches and try and walk you down, basically. But yeah, it'd be a good fight. I think somebody's getting knocked out, and I think it's Roly. I think it's Roly. Well, interestingly, Roly Romero signed with Golden Boy now. So I think they'll try and force that fight through. I do. I think they'll try and force it through. What's the end goal there? With O'Hara Davis joining Golden Boy. What's the end goal there? I have a feeling, my hunch, Golden Boy will back Roly. Sorry, Golden Boy are going to back O'Hara in that fight. They've signed him up. I would say this is the deal. They've signed O'Hara for that fight. They'll try and back him. They'll try and win a purse bid, whatever it may be. Should he win that fight, they'll have an option on him for maybe his next fight, and he'll fight Ryan Garcia if he beats Roly Romero. Because they'll view O'Hara as a winnable world title should he beat Romero. I think they'll try and feed him to then feed him to Ryan Garcia. That's what I would say the plan is, because aside from that, why would you sign O'Hara Davis? Aside from the fact he's got a world title fight coming up with no backing, he's a free agent, and your hot prospect is Ryan Garcia, who's at 140 now. That's what I would say they're doing. Because, trying to work to get Roly, they'd have to work with PBC again, which may not be easy. Oh, fuck no. No. Mayorga was a fucking gangster, man. Mayorga was like, I don't know, his crazy was just more effective. His crazy was more effective. You know what I'm saying? His crazy was more effective. Roly Romero crazy is more like is probably caused by like some sort of learning difficulty. Whereas Ricardo Mayorga's crazy is just caused by a screw loose. He just didn't give a fuck, did he? Lighting up Marlboro Reds after the fight. And listen, Mayorga wasn't a bad fighter, man. He beat Adrian Lewis, I think Vernon Forrest twice, gave Corey Spinks a tough fight. Listen, man, he wasn't a bad fighter. He wasn't a bad fighter. Did he beat Fernando Vargas towards the end of Vargas's career? I'm pretty sure he did. Pretty sure he did. Yeah, Mayorga's got a couple of good wins, yeah. Mayorga's got a couple of good wins. Again, Mayorga's one of those guys. Imagine Mayorga wasn't such a head case, and he trained seriously. He didn't smoke, and get in fucking machete fights in Honduras. Imagine that. Imagine that. Or Nicaragua. Sorry, not Honduras. He was a crazy ass guy, man. That guy was like something out of a shitty 90s action B movie. Like some knockoff fucking Steven Seagal movie. Like he was like some bad guy in one of those movies. That's what he came across like. Like it was so over the top and like vulgar, but I loved it. I wish we had a guy like that now. I really do. I wish we had a guy like that now. Ricardo Mayorga, though, these days would get cancelled ASAP. Like the Oscar de la Hoya press conference, what he was saying to Oscar about Oscar, bro, he'd get cancelled ASAP. He'd be on the first fucking plane back to Nicaragua in 2023. Can you imagine? when he said about Oscar singing like a you know what? And he wasn't wrong considering what came out years later. Do you know what I'm saying? I liked Mayorga, man. Mayorga was class. Class fighter. Not class in terms of skills, but just entertainment value. Maybe that toxic boxing, maybe that could be true as well. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? It's just a weird signing, isn't it? It's a weird one. You never thought you'd see Ohara Davies get signed by Golden Boy. But listen, man, hopefully he gets paid. But I'd like to see that fight happen. I'd like to see Ohara just win the title, beat Rolly. It'd be like I say, it'll be a good redemption story at the very least. And then maybe a big money fight against Ryan Garcia where he can cash out. I'd like to see it. But anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. We've been going for 2.5 hours. Longer than I anticipated, to be honest. But yeah, definitely got a video coming tomorrow. More than likely won't cover Jake Paul and Nate Diaz unless I see something crazy or a different angle to cover it. I won't touch it. Next week's probably going to be quieter than this last week. I've actually been super active this last week. The channel's actually done quite well the last sort of 8, 9, 10 days. I think we've nearly got 200 subs, maybe 150 subs in the last like 8, 9 days, which is kind of crazy. But I've been a lot more active. I've kind of had the itch again. So yeah, I don't expect that will continue next week because there's not really much to talk about. I've done the Joshua White prediction. So aside from that, not really too much to talk about. So I'd expect the next week to be quieter, but who knows? Maybe stuff happens and, we can talk about it, but we shall see. But yeah, I'm going to wrap it up, guys. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. Yeah, the weekend's coming up. Have a great weekend. Peace out, guys. Have a great one.